The Women's Social and Political Union was established by Emmeline Pankhurst on the 10th of October 1903. The new organisation, born of frustration with both the perceived lack of progress made by the peaceful suffragists and the lukewarm commitment to women's suffrage shown by the Independent Labour Party, was open only to women and had as its motto, deeds not words. During its early years, the WSPU led a peaceful campaign not dissimilar to that of the suffragists, and campaigned in support of the candidate in elections who most strongly supported women's suffrage, typically the Labour candidate. However, from 1905 onwards, a new strategy was adopted. It looked likely that the Liberal Party would form the next government, and so Emmeline's daughter Christabel and Annie Kenney decided to interrupt a Liberal Party meeting being held in Manchester on the 13th of October. Roughly ejected from the hall for interrupting the speaker with demands to know whether the party would support women's suffrage, Christabel spat at a policeman, was arrested, and a storm of publicity ensued. Heckling politicians, contravening all notions of feminine respectability, marked the start of the militant campaign, one that would escalate over time as frustration with failed attempts at reform grew, to include window smashing, arson, and even bombings. Emmeline and many of the women with whom she launched the WSPU had been either members of the Independent Labour Party or were the wives of members. The WSPU also drew tactical inspiration from the Labour movement. However, Christabel in particular doubted the ILP's commitment to women's suffrage. In 1906, moves were made to sever the union's links with the ILP. Christabel, the WSPU's chief strategist, declared that instead of supporting the Labour candidate in elections, the union would focus its efforts against the Liberal government candidate, so long as the government opposed women's suffrage. There were other tactical considerations at play. Christabel felt that making the union free of association with the ILP would make it more appealing to women from other political backgrounds, and Emmeline was convinced reform would eventually come from a Conservative government, looking to embarrass and divide the Liberals as Disraeli had done in 1867. They also hoped the loosening of their ties to the Labour movement would help them attract more middle and upper class supporters who would help fill the union's fighting fund and attract political support. However, the manner in which the Pankhursts executed the change of policy was deeply divisive. A group of dissenters, led by Theresa Billington-Greig, drafted a new constitution for the movement for consideration at the 1907 annual conference. This would have made the WSPU a democratic organisation in which elected delegates to an annual conference would vote on policy, including the planned split from the ILP. Emmeline Pankhurst responded by cancelling the meeting, rejecting the draft constitution, and insisting that the WSPU needed military discipline. Figures like Billington-Greig and Charlotte Despard found the autocratic style of leadership and the denial of internal democracy irreconcilable with the union's aim of giving women the vote, and so, along with 1/5 of members, resigned and formed the Women's Freedom League. With the Pankhursts looking to run the union like an army, and increasingly violent militant acts eroding support in Parliament for women's suffrage, historians have long debated whether the WSPU ultimately helped or hindered the votes for women cause. For suffragists like Eleanor Rathbone, the movement came within an inch of wrecking the suffrage campaign and would have done so had the First World War not intervened. It is equally undeniable, though, that the militant strategy of the Suffragettes, as they became known, raised the profile of the campaign to new heights and helped make it a truly mass movement. Despite the loss of members to the WFL, the WSPU grew rapidly, from 3 branches in March 1906 to 122 by the end of 1911. By 1910, its income and number of paid staff exceeded that of the Independent Labour Party. While its membership is unlikely to have ever exceeded 5,000, the WSPU was capable of mobilising many times that number when it wanted to, such as for the Hyde Park Rally of June 1908, the largest political rally the capital had ever seen. The irrepressible Pankhursts may not have succeeded in forcing the government to support women's suffrage. When that support came, it was more influenced by other factors. But they did make the issue of women's suffrage impossible to ignore.